Assignment 9 is comparing bouncy balls. This assignment will extend on the previous one. You will modify your bouncy ball class to give it the comparable interface. Don't forget the template. You need to hear me on that, because if you do, you will run into all kinds of problems. Java will make your life very difficult. It will compile. I promise you that, but it will not work the way that you expect it to. And once you've done that, you will create two bouncy ball objects in your main class, in your main method, and compare them based on their diameters. Do not compare them on any other characteristic. I want you to compare the diameters only. That's it. Don't worry about anything else. So the first thing that you're going to do, modify your bouncy ball class, obviously, to add comparable in its method compare to. Don't forget the template and the fact that compare to takes in one parameter, which is the object to compare against. The example shown in class should be enough that you should be able to fairly quickly do this and see how it needs to be structured. And that example is actually in the notes, if you look at the notes. In your main class, inside your main method, you're going to create two bouncy ball objects. Now, when I say your main class, that means you are going to have two classes for this assignment. You're going to have the bouncy ball class, which will be one file all by itself, and you'll have your main class, which will be one file all by itself, like normal. The main class will have your main method, public static void main string array args, and then your bouncy ball class will obviously store all of the information on how a bouncy ball is set up and the instance variables and the behaviors that it is capable of performing and what have you. Note that you are supposed to create two bouncy ball objects, but you do not have to ask the user for these values. You can pick random ones. If there is a particular feature of your program that I want to test, I will change the values that you put in your program initially. But you must leave me with at least two bouncy balls and do this part of the assignment, and I will change values if I see a reason to. But you are not expected to ask the user from the console using the scanner objects in order to get that information in. You can create it for yourself. The next thing that you're supposed to do is print the characteristics of each of your bouncy ball objects to the console. This should be fairly easy if you did your toString method correctly, and I'd like to see the format like the following. Each sub-bullet here is actually a definition of a line. So in this case, on the first line, you would write ball1 characteristics, and then you would, in the italics area, you would actually put the characteristics. More than likely, you should just be calling your toString method there. And then the next thing that you would do is you would say on the next line ball2 characteristics and then the characteristics of that ball. Fairly straightforward. That shouldn't be that bad for you. The next thing is you will compare your two bouncy ball objects, like in the example below, and save the integer result to a variable. Now, this example obviously doesn't show you how to save that value to a variable. You've seen that enough times. You just saw it in the videos. You should be able to do that, but this is the general idea. You should say ball1 dot compare to ball2. Okay? The next thing that you should do, and we just saw this with the weighted item example, is print to the user one of the following depending on the result of the previous step. If ball1 dot compare to ball2 is equal, then you should print this line. If ball1 is greater than ball2, then you should print this line. If ball1 is less than ball2's diameter, then you should print this line. That should be fairly straightforward. It's very similar to the weighted item example. I want to reinforce this idea for you so that it feels a little bit more comfortable for you. This isn't really something that I'm trying to reinforce and make you do on your own. I want you to sort of experiment and play and rebuild for yourself what needs to be what needs to be there just so that you get the gist of what's going on. I'm not really looking for you to do anything extravagant. This will be very much like the example which we just did in the previous video when we talked about comparable and the weighted item class that I created. That being said, we're back to printing our signature blocks. At the end of your program, you should print your signature block. As I say, always, you don't have to change your quote if you don't want to. I don't care. I obviously like it when you do. It's always interesting to see what you guys use for quotes. I have a plethora of them that I use when I'm taking a programming class at UMA because most professors do ask for them. So I would like to see you follow that path, but as long as you have a signature block with a quote, even if it's one you've used before, I don't really care. That being said, one class left after this one. I probably won't record it today because none of it is written. But once that one is done, I will start recording the classes and setting up the content for the robotics specific stuff for Java, which will get more information released when I actually start writing some stuff about it.